Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of the Treasury, as part of his program to secure the country's finances and forge a prosperous industrial nation, proposed the creation of a federally chartered banking corporation that could employ the government debt as the basis for a circulating currency. This would bind the interests of wealthy bondholders to a powerful central government while securing their political support. Simultaneously, his design created an aristocracy of wealth, providing an elite group of men with the power to control and regulate the economic lifeblood of the new nation. President Washington's floor leader in the House, James Madison, Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson, and Attorney General Edmund Randolph would object to the constitutionality of the creation of a national bank. Jefferson would later go even further, suggesting that the power to issue paper currency be withdrawn from the states and returned to Congress, where it rightly belonged. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution provides Congress with the authority to coin money and regulate the value thereof. The dispute over Hamilton's financial policies split Washington's administration into factions, leading to the first political parties. Despite the conflict, Congress passed Hamilton's legislation. Guided by the vision and forceful persuasion of Hamilton, President Washington signed the legislation, creating the first bank of the United States. The public eagerly purchased the bank shares when they went up for sale. They were all sold within 1 hour. This act placed the cornerstone of our economic foundation at odds with our political sovereignty. All of the public benefits and profits derived from issuing and controlling money and credit were thus privatized, inuring to a small group of state-chartered banking corporations and, over time, 3 federally chartered banks: the First and Second Bank of the United States, and the Third Bank of the United States, created in response to the banking panic of 1907, known as the Federal Reserve. An immense, unchecked political power corrupts our institutions and obstructs the will of the people, betrays their trust, and engages in deceit to maintain control. We may have the vote, but the moneyed interests have the influence. By funding candidates, they determine who is elected and, more importantly, who runs for office. Hamilton claimed that a private bank would be immune from political pressure. This same argument is used to defend the Federal Reserve Bank. He also maintained that the marketplace would keep the bank honest because any hint of impropriety would sink its credit and scare off its investors. Each frothy boom and disastrous collapse exposes the fragile seam dividing those living on the edge from those safely ensconced in their protective bubbles of privilege, power, and immense financial wealth.
It's time to recognize that we've come to a turning point. We're threatened with an economic calamity of tremendous proportions, and the old business-as-usual treatment can't save us. Together, we must chart a different course.
Yes, how has the national debt personally affected each of your lives? And if it hasn't, how can you honestly find a cure for the economic problems of the common people if you have no experience in what's ailing them?
Well, I think the national debt affects everybody. Obviously, it has a lot to do with interest rates. It has.
She's saying you personally.
On a personal basis, how has it affected you?
Has it affected you personally?
Well, I'm sure it has. I love my grandchildren. I want to think that think that they're going to be able to afford an education. I think that that's an important part of being a parent. Maybe I won't get it wrong. Are you suggesting that if somebody has means, that the national debt doesn't affect them?
Oh, what I'm saying,
I'm not sure I get it. Help me with the question, and I'll try to answer it.
You know people who lost their jobs and lost their homes? I'll tell you how it's affected me. Every year, Congress and the President sign laws that make us do more things and gives us less money to do it with. I see people in my state, middle-class people, their taxes have gone up in Washington and their services have gone down. We've gone from 1st to 12th in the world in wages. We've had 4 years where we produced no private sector jobs. Most people are working harder for less money than they were making 10 years ago. It is because we are in the grip of a failed economic theory. And this decision you're about to make better be about what kind of economic theory you want. Not just people saying, I'm going to go fix it, but what are we going to do?
Just a second now. Ready? Hold it.
Did you ever sit and ponder, sit and wonder, sit and think why we're here and what this life is all about? Life's a very funny proposition after all. Imagination, jealousy, hypocrisy, gall. When you haven't got the coin, you're always in the way. Everybody's fighting, we wend our way along. Every fellow claims the other fellow's in the wrong. Hurried and worried until we're buried, there's no curtain call. Life's a very funny proposition after all.